Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Where's everybody joining from today? I'm so happy you're here. I did finish a sketchbook, and I've been doing these sketchbook exercises in this bigger one, but it's kind of hard to see the whole thing on camera. So I'm gonna open a new sketchbook. These are sketchbooks that I have. They are cotton paper, 140-pound watercolor. And I'm going to be doing a 2-page spread in this one here. So I'm just going to open that up and get ready. I'm thinking today what we're going to do is go through this exercise where we talk about the direction in a little more detail. But I'm going to do it with this image here, which is a little more complicated than one I did before. And so having the live here will kind of help us explore this a little bit more. So what you're going to need today is some paper. You're going to need some paints. You're going to need a brush, some water. You can either go by the reference photo I'm using, or you can find one yourself. This is one that I found on Unsplash, and I just looked for mountains. But you'll be able to kind of see what I'm doing here. We're going to create a rough map, and this isn't going to be perfect. It won't be an exact replica of what we're making here. But I kind of want to talk through how to approach something like this. You've never done artwork, you want to do watercolor? You should. It's so much fun. I will probably also be using some other supplies, like maybe some pens or some white gouache, just to kind of create some additional texture. You could use whatever supplies you want to today. This lesson is like totally adaptable to pretty much anything because of the way that we're learning about the direction of strokes and things like that. So if you're like, I just have crayons, perfect, grab the crayons. You'll just have to adapt for the, what you're using. All right, I'm just getting my final stuff set up over here. And we're going to be ready to go pretty soon. Yeah, I know how nerve-wracking it can be to start a new medium or a new kind of practice like this. And it's, we're real forgiving to ourselves over here. So, all right, we're going to get started now. I've got my notebook here, but we're actually going to start with this reference photo. So, again, what we're going to be learning today are these kind of directional things. This is a sketchbook exercise, so be forgiving to yourself. We don't need this to be absolutely perfect. This is what I'm going to be painting in today. I'm going to go across both of these. So I need something that is about twice as high as it is long, and you'll notice my reference photo is a square, which isn't necessarily compatible, but what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to go ahead and kind of crop this myself just by doing a couple little folds here. So something like this. All right. So we're going to be starting with this here. So this is going to kind of roughly be around the same size as what I'm going to be using in my sketchbook. I've got a Sharpie, a pen would work, whatever is totally going to be fine. And one thing I probably should have done is I probably should have lightened this image so that we could see this a little bit more, but I didn't. So we're going to start by kind of defining the main shapes in this. So one main shape I see here is this, right over here. It's kind of like a weird M shape. And then if I were to take a ball and try to roll it across this, it would have to go in this direction. So I'm going to write these lines here. I'm going to go through this, kind of how we're doing this here, just so we have a little map, we have a little plan. This one that's in the background, there's another kind of main shape here. Doesn't need to be perfect. This one looks like it's going down in this direction. There's another shape that's kind of back over here. And we can edit out this to be a little less complicated, and this one goes down in this direction. When we actually do go to put this on the page, we can make this a little bit more simple as we need. There's another shape here. This one's going to roll down in this direction again. Then this shape here is pretty complicated, but I'm going to keep it kind of simple by just continuing this on down in that direction. We're going to keep a little one here, and this one we're going to change that direction just a little bit, just to create some kind of depth there. Again, just defining these different shapes here. This one rolls like this. It also rolls a little bit flatter over here, and then it gets a little more extreme right along this way. Like that. So, see how we're kind of just mapping out these different directions of these? Let's get another one over here. And our last couple little shapes here. This one's going to go this direction, but then there's kind of this little dip here where this one kind of goes in this direction. This might seem kind of tedious, you know, when you get started, but understanding some of this is going to be a lot easier than trying to make these shapes yourself and kind of figure it out on the fly. So if we actually take the time, it's going to save us a lot of time. And this rolls back down over here, but this will save us a lot of time in the future. All right, so I have my general map. This doesn't need to be perfect, and it's not going to look exactly like this, but we're going to go ahead and place this in the sketchbook. And a lot of times I'll go straight in with paint, but today I'm actually going to take the time to kind of transfer some of these shapes and images with a pencil, which I thought I had sitting right next to me, but it has disappeared. While I find my pencil, let me know, are you following along, or are you just watching to figure out maybe what you're going to do today or tomorrow? Okay, I can't find my favorite pencil, but here is a pencil. Now, oh wait, nope, that pencil does not have lead. I used this pencil earlier today, my goodness. Here it is. All right, when we are drawing underneath watercolor, we typically want to draw super duper light. And oftentimes we also want to grab something like a kneaded eraser. So if I were drawing this in real life, let's pretend like these are the mountains, I would draw it kind of like this, and then I would also try to pick up a whole bunch of that extra graphite so that it's just barely visible to me, which is going to help it kind of melt into this. But I'm going to be drawing this a lot darker today so you guys can kind of actually see what I'm doing. So I'm going to start with my shapes that I think are going to be easiest, and I think this kind of M shape over here is going to be a good starting point. So I know that the top is about here, and then I'm going to do this M shape here. It's going to kind of come down. And again, these aren't going to be exactly the same. But I've got basically this M shape here. Now that M shape actually does kind of continue on. It goes down a bit. See how it goes down a bit? And then it comes up, and then it kind of craggles down this way. Like that. And this top part, I don't think I had the angle quite right here. I think I want that to be a little bit more extreme. So I'm going to just take and modify that a bit. Let's see. We can see those lines, right? You can absolutely use watercolor pencils. That's also a great thing to use because they will blend in a little bit more. For some reason, watercolor pencils and I don't know, they're just not my favorite thing. All right, now I'm doing this kind of behind shape over here. Just kind of craggling that down. Let's get this one in over here too. And then let's try to identify some of these. Now, when some of these get really complicated, especially if this is your first couple times doing this, you could edit out some parts of this. So we could take, there are technically like 1, 2, 3 parts there, but we could just combine this into one here. So we're going to do that. That's going to come up here, and I'm just going to bring it down over here. It's going to kind of come in, and then up and down and over. Just like that. Let's bring this one in. Like that. Then our next big shape is kind of down here. There is this little one here, but I'm going to use this one as a big reference. Right there. Then I can kind of block this one in over here. We're going to bring this down because I've got this shape here. Then I'm going to block this one in, so I'm going to leave some space. Or actually, this one is the next one. And you don't have to be as precise. We could, I mean, you could just technically take this one and just keep this big piece and kind of just change the direction of the lines we're going to add in there. If you're like, this is too complicated, edit out some of the spots that you're intimidated by. Especially for something like a sketchbook exercise. This is real low stakes, so we don't need everything to be completely perfect. So like that. I've got this kind of weird map going on. Yes. Okay, so there is a question, and there is a suggestion that is a really good suggestion. If you looked at this and you're like, I am so intimidated, I'm out, by trying to kind of like do this and put these on here, even though they don't need to be perfect, if it's still just kind of intimidating to you, you could take this image, cut off the sides, get some carbon paper and just transfer this on, and you can draw those lines into it and just basically trace it on. Because the lesson we're not learning today is how to draw things. The lesson we're really learning today is how do segmenting out these different shapes and then working on the directions impact how our eye kind of sees some of this stuff. So if you're intimidated by what I just did, you don't need to do exactly that. You could definitely use some carbon paper to transfer this on. So we have our main shapes here. So what I want to do is I'm going to paint inside of each of these shapes. Now normally, again, I would come back in and I would really lighten this up, or I would just paint these directly on there. But so that you guys can see what I'm doing, we have a nice sketch down. Well, we have a sketch down. I don't know if I'd call it a nice sketch, but we have a sketch down. And I'm going to leave it this dark. What are we thinking color scheme? Do we want to try to stay true to this color scheme, or do we want to push the boundaries? Do we want to go teal? Do we want to go purpley? Do we want to go blues? Let me know in the comments. Vote for purple. Purple and teal, they could look good together. So today we're not going to be doing this realistic. This is more a sketchbook exercise to kind of understand the basics of this. All right, I'm getting tons of votes for purple, teal, and blue. There's a couple votes for some orange too, which might be kind of fun in some of these highlights. All right, we're gonna go with these colors. We're just gonna kind of really push some of these colors. So I probably won't do this exactly, but my plan is I'll do some like purples, and then maybe this will be teal into a little bit of like some orange and some different blues, and we're just gonna kind of start to block these in. All right, so I need to prep my paints. I'm gonna grab my paints here, and I'm just gonna pre-wet all of these so that I'm going to have an easier time getting all that nice pigment out. Oh, just so you guys know, these are the set of 18, the unicorn food set. I just restocked. Everything is up on my website. I've got bundles. I've got a set of 12 and that I've kind of modified to have some of the more convenience colors. But then I also have this one that has all the same colors, except for I did modify the purple from the previous set because I found one that I liked better. And yeah, so anyways, that's what I'm going to be using today, but any sort of art supply is going to be fun for this. You could use, like markers or colored pencils, and then on top you can use pen and things like that. But I'm going to be using watercolor. So if you did just get here, what you're going to do is take a reference photo, and we're going to block in those main lines. And we're going to kind of figure out what direction things would roll down a hill. Oh, nice. How exciting. All right, so we voted. I did love the terracotta beige orange color scheme. That sounds absolutely stunning, but it seemed like the most people wanted kind of purples, teals, blues, that kind of thing. So we're going to start by mixing up some different colors. I'm going to start by putting a little water in each of these because I kind of want to be able to dip into some of these colors. So let's mix up a nice purple. Let's mix up a nice teal, a blue, and then maybe an orange highlight too. So I'm going to grab, this is my favorite blue. I have had to replace in my previous set this blue, which is blue raspberry. It's kind of like a phthalo blue almost. Not quite, but close. I've had to replace it like 3 times because I use this color the most. Let's just, real quick, I'm going to move this so I don't accidentally drip while I'm trying to actually mix up some colors. So that's kind of a nice light color. I think I want a little more pigment in here, so I'm going to grab a little more. And you know what? I'm kind of wanting this to be a little more steely blue. So I'm going to use the color that's on the opposite side of the color wheel. It's complement, which is orange, in order to kind of mute this down a little bit. And so what I just did was I washed my brush and I'm going to dry it over on a little towel I have over here. Take a teeny bit of this orange and mix it in. Maybe I need a little more. I like to kind of sneak up on the colors though. It's a little bit more, but I want it to be a little more steely. We're going to mix up another blue too. Or we're going to have teals as well. Okay, grab some of that orange, and I think I might have gone a little bit too far, but this could be a pretty color. I'm going to get just a little more blue, just to bring it back just a little bit. There we go. That's more the color I want today. This could be a really pretty color here too, and I can just dip straight into that to get some kind of spots that are that really brighter blue color, which if we dip directly into the pan instead of mixing it up would be more like this type of a color, and I feel like that saturation might be better for that. All right. Yeah, this, excuse me. So on camera, this might look like ultramarine. This definitely has ultramarine usually has kind of a slightly deeper color to it, which is a little closer to this one, but that one's also not quite ultramarine either, but you can definitely make kind of an ultramarine color. So, all right, we've got our blue. Let's get our purple going. And I need to re-wet just a bit more because they've soaked in, especially when you have a new palette where it's all flat. A lot of times when you spray, all that water is just going to go down on the sides of the wells. Once you start to really wiggle around in these, then you get those nice kind of indents that look terrible, but actually make watercolor painting a lot more pleasant. It's a nice light purple. Let's pack in a little more pigment. I want it to be a little bit more. So I'm just going back and forth between kind of rolling my brush around in this. And let's see. That's a little better. Maybe just a little bit more. Again, I can always dip straight into that if I need more concentrated colors too. got that. Now it's time for teal. There is actually a teal in this set of 18, so we're going to start with this teal. And then I'm actually going to take some of this color and put it in here just so it's kind of like a little bit part of the same color palette. Although I love these two together. This teal with that purple, I love it. Yeah, I like doing these lives, and you know, I used to try to do like a brand new lesson on live, but I've kind of been realizing lately that I want to go through and I want to change it a little bit, you know, but something that I've done in one of those like minute long or minute and a half long videos and actually take the time to explore it, because there's so much more that I can't fit in to that minute, you know. There's only so much I can say in a minute where, you know, I'm doing stuff the whole time while I'm painting. So that's my teal there. I think these colors are going to look really nice together, actually. You guys made a great selection. And then I'm going to mix up some kind of, I'm thinking like a yellow-ish orange will be good for this. So I'm going to start with a little bit of this orange, which I call marmalade. So these are my watercolors, and I call them unicorn food. This one, that's the 18, is what I call the Crave palette, because it's everything, all the different colors you'd possibly want. And then the set of 18 is called the Perfect Bite. And I named them to kind of be things that I think a unicorn would eat if they had a diet of human food. So like we have marshmallow, lemon zest, marmalade, banana split, kind of a bunch of things like that. So I'm adding a little bit of this is corn on the cob actually here, just to make this a little more yellow. But yeah, any watercolors you have will work great for this. I think that will be a nice kind of highlight color with these other colors. I like that. All right, so I've got some colors mixed up here. Now we're just going to start to block in these, and I'm going to try my best to not have these bump into each other as much. It probably won't happen completely, but I'm going to try. So I'm going to attempt to, oh, this set also comes with this water brush pen too, which is good for on the go. I like using those sometimes, but most of the time I like the precision of a nice brush with a nice tip on it. So let's take a look at this. We can kind of get an idea of what's in shadow versus what's not. This side is going to, we want it to be a lot lighter in general to kind of help push if we want to follow these shadows, but you don't have to, because this exercise is more about the direction than shadowing, but we can also try that a little bit too. So I think I want this one to be that nice dark blue color. So I'm just going to grab some of this blue. This would be easier if I had this resting on something, but yet I'm holding it. And we're just going to place some of that down there. Now, if I wanted to, you could get a little bit fun and adventurous and take some like black and kind of tap it towards the bottom just to get a little variation if you want. This will dry in some interesting ways, and by leaving some of this extra water on here, I could be encouraging some blooms and things like that, which might add some fun textures to this. So there we go. Now this one, it's going to start a bit darker, but then I want it to go lighter. So I'm going to start it with this purple color. And I'm trying not to touch these too much. It's probably going to happen, but yep, just right there it did. And then we're going to switch over to just some water in my brush to kind of smooth this down just a bit. And then we're going to just grab some of that orange color and place that right along kind of the edge here. They're going to mix together, they're going to make some interesting colors, things like that, and that's totally fine. I'm going to go back into a bit more of this purple color over here. We're just doing fun colors. You could do this however you want the colors to be. And then let's throw in a little bit of this teal color here. None of these need to be perfect because we're going to come back in with some other colors. I'm going to grab a little bit of that extra. If you need to grab extra, if you've got a bunch of water sitting there and you're like, I don't want that, take your brush, tap it so it's dry, and then you can just kind of, the brush just kind of sucks it up. All right, so I'm looking at the comments here. It says people are thinking I don't answer the comments. I do try to answer the questions here. It's just, it's hard for me to keep up while I'm also trying to paint and teach, because I'm not just painting. I'm also trying to explain this to you guys. So, to avoid the colors bleeding and touching, couldn't you wait until they dried? Absolutely. You could if you're like, I don't want these colors to bleed and touch. I don't mind it because I kind of like how it looks. And this is just a fun little exercise. And we're going to be adding in a bunch of detail with either pen or something at the very end where we're going to kind of cover up and re-segment these. But if you're like, I want each of these to be completely separate and I'm afraid I'm going to accidentally bump these together, you could paint segments that aren't touching and let them dry and then come back in and paint the ones that butt up to it. Absolutely. All right, so now I'm going to add this one in here too. You know what? I'm thinking, I don't know why, but I'm thinking I need to start the top of this one with a little bit of pink just to kind of really pop a fun color in there. And then let's transition this to a little bit of blue. I'm just trying to get some fun color interactions going here. And then into that purple color. Again, I've got some water settling here, so I'm going to dry my brush and then just suck up some of that extra water there. All right, then over here, this one, I think this is going to be another really bright one, so I'm going to bring in some of that orange. This is where a lot of that light's going to be. And then let's go into, ooh, what color do I want to use? I'm thinking teal. Now this teal and this orange together might make some interesting colors, but I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do this face here and then this face here. These ones are kind of in shadow, so I'm going to leave those ones for this side, which I'm going to put in darker colors in general on the left side of this because it's in shadow. Yes, thank you guys so much. And if you're new to my lives, it's been a while since I've been on, about a month, but we usually do every other weeks. And one other thing I really love about our little community we have here is we help each other out. So there are oftentimes a lot of people in the comments here that are really helpful and they kind of will help recap or add their own knowledge. And I totally encourage that in the comments. Please, yeah, use each other as a resource. I try to do my very best at explaining and answering questions as I can, but you know, sometimes it's a little bit difficult. So, all right, so I've got my main sides that are going to be a little bit lighter, and you could do these in whatever colors you want. These are the colors that we kind of selected together, and so these are the ones I'm doing. I know, you guys made great color selections together. All right, so I am kind of waiting for a second, kind of like that comment suggested, so that things aren't going to bleed together, because I do want to keep the light and the dark side a little bit differentiated. I don't want a bunch of my dark colors to go into my nicer, brighter colors. And I'm going to take a second while those are all settling in to darken up a couple of these colors. Now, there are two different things that we can talk about while we're doing this, because this is a live, and so we're trying to learn as much as we can. You might already know some of this, and that's totally fine. But if we have a blue color, like let's say we're taking this blue color, I'm going to put a little water in there so you can see a little bit more. and we've got a little more to play with. We have a bright blue color here, and we're like, we like this bright blue color, but we want to darken it. Yes, we can technically just take a higher saturation to darken it, or we can darken this color by doing two different things. Now, one thing you could do is take some black and add this into this, which is going to create kind of a grayish blue color. But you'll often see watercolor or artists do this, which is they'll take the main color and then they will take the complementary color, like I did earlier, which is this orange color, and mix them in. And if you do it too much, if you add equal parts, you're going to get kind of a brownish or a grayish color, like that. But if I get my proportions right, where there is technically more blue than there is orange, we're going to get this nice deep color, which is going to have a little bit more, it still has a little more oomph to it than adding the gray color does. And I'm not entirely sure how that works, but it does work. It does make a difference to have kind of the opposite colors instead of just adding the grays. Now, there's not a right or wrong way to do this, or I guess that depends on who you ask. I personally think that there's not really a right or wrong way to do really anything in art as long as it works for you. But these are just some things that are helpful to know for when you kind of figure out how you like to work with things. You use an eyelash fan to dry it faster. I love that. I use a hairdryer or a heat gun. Just so you guys know, I bought a heat gun, well, actually I think I got it for Christmas last year, a heat gun from Harbor Freight, and it is going through something. I had to actually get rid of it because something in it broke, and now it forces out air so fast and so hot that I'm afraid it is actually going to burn the paper. And I don't know, it smells funny. It smells really funny, and so I'm not going to mess with that. So don't buy the Harbor Freight heat gun, just so you know. Do I have a color wheel there? I do have color wheels in my studio. I don't think I have any that I can reach at the moment, but yes. Every once in a while we do around here, and this might be a fun thing to do on the next one because I don't want to spend a ton of time. I mean, I want to give you guys some color mixing knowledge today, but I don't want to spend all of our time on that today because we obviously want to paint and play together. So I'm just going to darken some of these up. I'm going to add in some of this slightly darker blue color too to this. There we go. Oh, I love that. Love that combination together. So that is my blue raspberry. This is a darker blue, which is blueberry muffin. So like if you took like a phthalo blue and then either an ultramarine or a Prussian blue with a little bit of orange, love it. This is one of my favorite colors, like all-time favorite colors. Oh, that makes me feel so nice. Been here 60 seconds, learned so much. Is the color wheel a good thing to memorize? Yes, actually, it will be so helpful to you if you sit down, and there's a ton of YouTube videos. I might even have one. I don't know if I do, but there's a ton of YouTube videos where watercolor artists sit down and will talk you through how to make your own color wheel. And sitting down and doing that exercise a couple times will really help you kind of understand some of the interactions and understand how the wheel works together. So I highly encourage you to do that, even if you end up just wanting to dip in to some of these colors just as they are, because they are beautiful colors, or whatever colors you have. It will help you make better choices on what to put next to each other. Okay, so I'm darkening colors. I want to keep some of this purple, but I do want this one to be darker, so I'm going to darken this one just by adding some more of this purple into it. So we have a slightly darker version, but if we wanted to mute this one, you can put your guesses or answer. What's the color that's on the opposite side of the color wheel for purple? It's yellow. The other thing you can think about is color wheels. Things that we see in real life are often really influenced. I put way too much, so we're gonna have a brown, so I'm gonna have to go backwards. But the color wheel, like, think about your favorite sports teams or your favorite holidays, and you're gonna start to notice things like, you know, purple. Oh, I've got a little tester strip. By the way, having little tester strips is super handy. I want this to be a little more blue just to make it a little darker, but you can see it muted that purple color. Having these little tester strips, I just cut off the excess pieces of different things in order to keep these on my desk so that I have a way. Ooh, I like that. I like that. Maybe a little more purple. I have a way to kind of test and know before I go straight onto the page what colors I'm actually working with. Yeah, complementary colors are, you know, you're going to see them. Mardi Gras is purple yellow, so we're like the Vikings, so you can kind of see that. Or the upcoming holiday season, red and green, you're going to see it all the time together, and they're complementary colors. See, as a bookmark. Yeah, you could definitely use the your little tester as a bookmark. I'm going to leave this one kind of as it is. I might just drop that in a couple places. I like that one. And we probably won't need, for the darker side, this orange color, but I am going to grab a little bit of this black color, and I'm just going to kind of put it into some of this water so that if I want to just create some kind of really darkened areas, I can just drop that in easily. You can work straight from the pans, but I like to kind of have pre-mixed colors and a decent amount of them at the saturation level that I want them, so that it's easier for me to grab, and I know I've got kind of a known quantity of color in my brush. That's just how I like to work. Everybody works a little bit different. And then if you're worried about wasting, so like these are dry, you just can spray them, and then the next time you go to paint, you can refresh it and you can reuse that paint. So you're not entirely wasting all the colors, and it can be kind of a fun exercise. By the way, love this color palette. Love it, love it, love it. But it can be kind of a fun way to determine what colors you're going to use next time. You can use it kind of as a challenge of like, okay, I have these 5 colors left, so what am I going to do? All right, so I'm just going to start blocking in these with some of these darker colors that I have. And since I might actually flip this upside down for just a little bit, because I want to be able to hold this so you guys can see what I'm doing. And I don't want to be holding it where I'm actually using it. So I'm going to start with this darker blue color. Actually, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe we'll start over here first. And I'm just going to kind of fill these in, trying not to touch too much. I will probably touch a little bit the other little shapes. This is a sketchbook exercise. We don't need this to be perfect. We are learning, we are playing, we are having fun. Now, if you really wanted to push some of the depth, you could take some of this black, and then right along the edge where this kind of really goes into shadow, you can just tap your brush to add in some shadow here. Don't have to do that, but you can. This is just regular watercolor, yes, and this is cold pressed watercolor paper. I really appreciate you guys helping each other in the comments. It helps me so much. And I'm just kind of coming in here. I'm going to try not to touch that too much, because the areas that I'm not coloring, I can cover up with the mixed media that I'm going to do on this next. So just trying to kind of bring this in here. Let's go into some of those slightly darker colors. I'm also going to tap in some of that black right down into here to really create some of that shadowing. We don't have to have this. One thing I recommend doing is when you see me on live and you're like, I feel like painting today, assess your own level, wherever you are in your progress, or even just the day you're having. If you're like, this day has been complicated enough, I don't need to also shade this, don't. adjust it. Just make them fun, flat colors, you know? We're doing this because we enjoy it, so we don't have to overcomplicate it if we don't want to. Yes, so I am kind of changing the colors depending on light or dark. So that is a really good point. Over here, this side is darker in my reference photo, but a lot of times, you know, the top's going to be a little bit lighter, and then as it kind of peeks behind, it's going to get a bit darker. So I'm kind of doing a little bit of that. I'm also just kind of doing a little bit of like, I think this might be pretty next to it. So it doesn't have to be exact. It doesn't have to be perfect. Also, like this, for example, I'm choosing this teal because I think it's going to look really pretty next to, I just want this teal just at the top here, but I think it's going to look really pretty next to that pink color. So, I mean, it was an intentional, but it's more intentional based on the color that's next to it, not so much the shadowing or highlights. Again, if you get some of that water sitting here, it's a good idea to just dry your brush and grab it so it doesn't sit there for too much. I'm gonna put a little purple in there, go into more of this blue. I'm liking the variation of the colors. I really like these colors we chose together. We'll see how the rest of this turns out, but so far this is one of my favorite like color schemes I have done in a long time. Great choices. And I can't take credit for them because you guys chose them. All right, putting in a little black there. I just want a little variation, don't have to. I start this next one with purple. The other thing I'm trying to do to kind of keep them a little bit separate is I might start with a slightly different color than what I began the previous one, just to kind of give them a little separation, but that's just kind of how I'm feeling. And one thing we're not really doing in this painting is we're not really focusing on a lot of water control or anything. We're not being super precise with how we're placing any of these colors down. We're just kind of going with what they're giving us a bit. So I'm going to keep that one a little bit lighter. This is the one, or actually no, this one, let's make this one a lot darker. We're going to keep this other one a little bit lighter so that these front parts can really be in shadow. Okay. So this one, let's do a lot of the teal on this one here. Again, I'm trying to not touch those too much because I don't want that black to run out on kind of the top part that might be a little more highlighted. Let's put a little pink here just to kind of give it, I want to bring that pink down a little bit more so it kind of boop, boop, there. So, yes, let me just be real transparent with you guys. Yes, the supplies I'm using today are ones that I have had made, I like, and I sell. But in order to enjoy my content and my tutorials, you do not have to use the supplies I sell. I do think that they are good. I like painting with them. But, you know, my goal is to have you guys paint. So with whatever you have, you should paint with it. It doesn't have to be my stuff. So if you're like, and I do often paint with other types of paint. Usually I'll do one with mine and then one with something else so you guys can see. I'm putting these in. These are the really heavy shadow ones. I think I might just keep these ones kind of more just this grayish black color. But yeah, if you're watching my stuff and you're like, well, I don't have, you don't have to have my stuff. It's totally fine. I just want you guys to take the time to paint, you know? People do often ask me though, and it is kind of fun for me to have a set that a lot of people use because I can help troubleshoot a little bit better. And I do have a ton of different sets so that I understand more watercolors and I can help with troubleshooting and things like that on a lot of different brands. But when we all work with a similar set, or not we all, but when a majority of people do. If they have questions, I can answer questions better. So, okay, I already really like this. I already am like, and I think it's just the colors. You guys just selected great colors together. We need to let this dry. All right, let me see. I'm gonna, while we're letting this soak in, I am gonna take a quick look back through the comments. Use Koi. Koi is a great brand, yeah. I use my Koi fairly often, and I know that's Andrea's paint of choice too. Yeah, let's talk about the brushes too. We're gonna take a second. So yes, again, these are my brushes, but if you're like, I don't ship internationally, unfortunately. I can't manage it myself. So that is one thing, you can't get my stuff, but also it just might be hard, or you might be impatient and you're like, I just want to go to the art store now. What you want to look for is a round brush, and I recommend getting like a size 10 or a size 12 as your main one. And the main thing you want to look for are two things. You want to see how the bristles move. You want some movement if you're a beginner, but not a ton of movement if you're a beginner. I think something like this is great for when you're really getting started. Once, I'm going to grab a different brush. This is another brand I do like. This is Silver. They have a lot of movement. Now, once you get more comfortable with your brush strokes, something like this that you can bend and flow will give you some really interesting variation. It's like the more you learn, the more you want things to like just kind of flow around with watercolor. But this is going to make it easier for you to learn, something that doesn't bend quite as much. But you want it to have a really nice point. So finding a round brush with a really nice point that has a little give but not too much is what you want to look for if you're like, okay, I saw this live today and now I'm heading to Jerry's Artorama and I am going to become a painter. So you might not have missed any of my lives. I haven't actually done one in like a month, but we're back to it now. So we're going to be doing every other week again. We'll be back together. So my brushes are synthetic bristles, yes. Whereas this brand, I believe, is not, or it's partially. I think I'm trying to remember because I did look, and like this brand, I think it's part synthetic and part not. Oh, sorry if you guys are getting a buzzing. A spam color was trying to contact me. Okay. So my live start, I'm in mountain time, which is 2 hours behind East, 1 hour before West Coast. And I start them at 11 a.m. And I do always schedule, if you have problems figuring out the time of the lives, I always put a little schedule thing at least the day before. I usually try to do it before that, but sometimes I'm busy. But I put it in my like profile and you can like register for it. I mean, all it really does is provide you a calendar link that you can put in, so your, Google Calendar will manage the time differences for you. Okay, so the class is not entirely over. We're waiting for this to dry. A lot of this did go, and I do think I'm going to try to upload this one, hopefully if this one records. So if you're like, this looked interesting, I want to see what they did at the beginning, I will be going back to this. Our last step for this is we're going to be going back to this. We're going to be looking at our little map, and then we're going to be adding in some details. And we can do this, we're going to be adding in those directional strokes. Now, I kept these ones pretty far apart just because this was part of, like a minute-long TikTok. And so I wanted to keep it really simple. In one, I did kind of some metallic highlights. This one I did white. This one I also added in some of the colors that I used in the painting to add in some of the directional things. So we've got options here. We could use And I want you guys to help me vote. For some reason, I'm kind of thinking black would be good. I'm also thinking some of the silver would be good. But you guys tell me, what do you want to see? Should we put in the same colors? Should we use watercolor to add in our line details? Should we add white gouache? Should we add silver, black pen? So I do lives every other week. So silver, silver, black and silver. Gold. Ooh. I wonder if I have a gold pen. Black and silver. All right, I think I'm going to do the black and silver. There's a lot of you who are saying that. We're going to start with the black color. So the silver pens I used the other day that were kind of fun were these outline markers. A while ago, I tested a different brand of outline marker and they were terrible. And somebody suggested these, and I haven't had a chance to make an updated thing, but these are actually much better. This brand here, which it doesn't. This does not list a brand, or does it? Oh, the Maggie or Maggie. They're pretty good. So I'm going to be using that. Let's test a couple of those to figure out what color. I think we start with the black and then we move over to adding in the pen details. All right, so I'm going to grab a pen. I think I'm going to use one of these Pentel point liners, but any sort of a pen will work. A lot of times I just use a, oops, turned off my lamp. A lot of times I just use a Papermate Flare pen once everything's done. I do need this to be dry, so I'm actually going to take my hairdryer and give this a really good dry before I start to try to make marks on top of it. If anyone is sensitive to louder noises or hairdryer type noises, gold would be pretty too. This is a good time to turn down your volume for probably about 15 to 20 seconds, and I'm going to give you a countdown now in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, we are good to go on the noise. Yes, of course. I always try to give a warning before I move the camera or I move that because, like, especially when we're trying to, like, relax together and then all of a sudden there's a really loud noise or a lot of jarring movement. Not great. All right, so I'm going to start with this. I got to tell you guys, I actually really like this painting as it is, and I'm half tempted to not even touch this because just the way these colors work together, love it, love it, love it. But we're gonna go for it. So if I were painting this on my own, I might walk away for a day or two to kind of try to decide, like, do I actually want to add anything to this? But this is the plan today, so we're gonna go for it. Okay, I have an idea. I think I'm gonna add in where there's heavy shadow is where I'm going to be outlining and making the linear marks with a pen. And on this side, where things are kind of in the light, is where I'm going to be adding in the silver. Oh, also somebody said magi. That's how you say that. The white does look like snow. I know, that's why I kind of don't want to touch it. But, you know, scan it when it dries. That would be smart. But, you know, we're on live. We got to do this. And I have to we have to go look for a new oven. Our oven broke. It was broke. We actually looked into getting it fixed, and it was a no-go. Anyways, we got a new oven that, so I'm just going to outline the major shapes here. And, you know, I might embrace the fact that there's a little bit of that white and just kind of leave that. Anyways, yeah, we got this new oven. And when you walk past it, if your hoodie or something barely touches one of the knobs for the stovetop, it just turns it on. And I burnt the bottom of a wood thing yesterday because it just turned it on. I wasn't even cooking anything. All right, so anyways, I want to return that and find a new oven because that scares me. So in this one, we determined that the movement comes kind of down at an angle, kind of like this. So now I just want to add in these lines. Now, you could either do this freehand like what I'm doing, because I don't care if these are perfectly straight, or you could come in with a ruler. Also, depending on, not only does direction matter, but how close together you put things can create more or less shadows. So if we have this here, if we really wanted to force this to seem like this area was a lot darker, we can just make a higher concentration of those lines in certain areas, and it will kind of create it, make it look like it's a little darker. It's not motion activated, but the knobs are just like really loose. So like I think my pocket, I did a couple little tests, and like as I was walking past it, my pocket like caught on one and it just turned it on. So you can lock the oven controls, but you can't lock the stovetop controls. So anyways, that's why I'm like, we've only had it for like 5 days, so I'm moving down into how I feel like these would kind of move together. Just going along with kind of how I imagine if I were to roll a ball, the direction this would roll. Like that. So we've got some nice kind of linear lines there. All right, now I'm going to outline this, and yeah, I'm going to just kind of embrace the fact that there is some of that white there. I'm outlining each little shape. And then we're going to come back in and add in those directional lines to kind of give it a little more potential depth. Okay, so this one we determined went more like this. So this one went down. So anyways, that's my very exciting plans, is to find an oven that won't burn my house down. So what are you guys doing? Anything fun today? Hopefully more fun than that. I'm a big fan of not burning my house down. There we go. We're just filling in these lines. So yeah, somebody's maybe I'll get used to it. I thought about that, but I have checked the stovetop so many times. So this one, and they move more down in this direction. I have checked it so many times since that happened that I'm like, I feel like I'm checking it before I'm going to bed just to make sure. Like it's just, I don't know, it just seems not worth it. And we're still in the return window, so gotta figure out if there's a better option. Started to snow today. Nice. Video games by watercolors. Okay, so the watercolors from the dollar store. I have, well, what do I have? Dollar Tree or Dollar General? I can't remember. The one I have, they have two options. They have a $1 palette, which is terrible. It is absolutely terrible. It literally, when it dries, it flakes off the paper. I don't recommend that one. I know it's only $1, but it literally just falls off the paper when we're done. This one goes down in this direction here, which is not very helpful. But they have a $5 option. If that is part of your budget, $5. Their $5 option, I mean, they're not like the best watercolors, but they're actually pretty nice. And there's a lot of colors, and they're fun to use. I'm just going to add these in. These lines in. Laundry day. Sick in bed. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Arting, Animal Crossing, self-care. That sounds like fun. All right, now this one goes in this direction. So I'm going to outline. I guess you don't have to outline. I didn't outline on that one, and I think it looks fine. So this one, it kind of goes whoop, like this. Like that. I'm also going to do for the shadow parts here in this black pen before I transfer over to that silver. So this one. Just like this. Okay, I'm still liking this even with the pen details, so that's good news, because I was afraid I was going to be like, oh no, it ruined it, but I like it. And this one, I guess that actually kind of goes down here and then kind of turns a corner. So here's another thing we can do. We can either do them all in one direction, or you could start it like this, where it kind of comes down and then it turns a corner, which is going to help create like a whoop kind of effect. So what we're learning today, is about main shapes. We're learning that direction matters. Some of my favorite kind of more abstracted paintings, when I look at their brushstrokes, when they leave heavy brushstrokes, a lot of it is just the kind of impression of movement based on the way they moved their brush. Your dog has a cold. Oh, I'm sorry. Last section, right? Yeah, I could see this be kind of like a whale. Orchestra rehearsal for Nutcracker. Have fun. Oh, there's a lot of people not feeling well today. I'm sorry. Yeah, I hope to see you guys soon. So yeah, we're just filling these in. I'm going to be adding the silver in on this the last pieces in just a second. And it's funny, I was thinking about doing a bunch of, we're going to test out a couple of these colors because these actually have kind of an outline. So there's green, which I used on this one. I don't know how much we're actually going to see it on these other colors, but maybe this pink or maybe the yellow might be kind of nice on this side. So let's get a test piece of paper. Anyways, yeah, I was going to do a bunch of fall stuff, and then it is 9 degrees here and snowing. And so I'm like, well, now it's winter. Oh, good call. Somebody caught this one. This one too, yes. That one's in shadow. I should add that one with. Great catch, great catch. Okay, we're going to test a couple of these colors together. So here is the one that is blue and silver. So that's an option. Ooh, I like that. That could work. So you want to space out the lines? We can start with space out a little bit more. There we go. We wrap pink and silver. That could be fun too. This orange could be good too because we put some little bits of orange. Hello, computer. There we go. It's starting to come. Maybe, maybe. Matte on the pink. Okay. Please hold. This is... Okay, we're not doing the orange because that is not reliable. Let's try the yellow. Oh yeah. Yeah, we like Star Trek in our household quite a lot. And here's the yellow. So what are we thinking? We're thinking yellow, pink, or that blue color, bluish silver. Orange is giving petulant kiddo vibes. All three. Oh no. We're gonna have to choose one. Blue or pink, blue or pink, blue or pink, blue. Oh man, I think the blue is gonna win based on the votes. I'm gonna start with the suggestion of keeping them really spaced out. So if I decide that as a reminder on our directions here, just, you know, having this next to you, especially when you're starting this. I mean, like, yeah, technically we can kind of just look at this and be like, well, that's probably coming down in this direction. But if you're new to this kind of an exercise, having a little reminder map is perfect. All right, we're gonna start. And I think I'm gonna leave out the outlines initially, just until I decide. I think I need the outline. I kind of wish I hadn't even added these in, but, you know, we're learning together. Trying to leave some of that white because I like the white. I don't know, that looks pretty cool still. This needs to connect though. There we go. So there's that one. I do think I need to do the outlines of the shapes too. Matching to the areas would be great. Ooh, okay. I'll move to pink on this one and the yellow on this one. But we're gonna do this one. Okay, so this one, it still kind of moves back down in this direction. Okay, let's grab that pink. The one dark area I didn't outline. Which one? I'm gonna keep, if you mean this one, oh. Yeah, I didn't do that one, you're right. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I might go back and fix it. I might not. All right, so I'm switching over to the pink for this pink one. As per requested. I'm just going to put a couple in there. I do like, well, I mean, you can't really even tell that much of a difference with the pink versus the blue, because we're putting it on the colors. But we're gonna keep switching, I guess. Just I guess you can tell a little bit different. It's a little bit. And I wish that I could get that orange to work, but as you saw, it said, no thank you. With the yellow. Connect, connect. Going back to the blue. Okay. Just as a quick reminder, these ones go this way. All right. Moving this in, outlining. This is genuinely one of my favorite things that I've made in a while. This is really cool looking. You know, one of the things I like about painting live, well, one is I really like it when you guys paint with me because I think it's fun. It's like we're all hanging out. But the other thing is I like to combine some of your suggestions because, one, it helps you guys kind of get to see, like, well, if I do this, this is what's happened, so I can help you test. But also, it's things I wouldn't think about, like some of these colors together. I've used a color palette like this, but I probably wouldn't have used this color palette on this painting, and oh my goodness, I love it. Look at what we made together. This is so freaking cool. All right, well, that pretty much wraps up what I had to talk about today. I love this. If you painted along with me today, please tag me in an Instagram post or a TikTok video or something. You have no idea how much it brightens my day to see what you guys are creating. Like, it's the whole reason I do this. Like, I mean, yeah, I have a little business, but let's be real. The main reason I do this is because I don't make, exactly what I put into this. Like if we calculated out my time, my main motivation is seeing what you guys paint and helping you guys get creative. And I think if you asked, Andrea that question, we talk about this all the time. We're like, we didn't post today. And it's like, well, we feel guilty, because we love seeing what you guys make and helping you guys kind of connect to some of this stuff. We know how helpful it can be, and I don't know. So anyways, if you guys show us, we love it. You can tag me, and I love seeing them. Well, thank you guys so much for a wonderful live today. As a reminder, in case you've been asking, because I've had quite a few people asking recently, the Unicorn Food Palette is back in stock. It is a little different. I optimized it based on feedback I got from you guys. So it is a little different, but I still think it's really good. And that's the watercolors we used today. So again, absolutely do not need to purchase my supplies to enjoy these types of classes, but I do really like my supplies, and I thank you guys for spending the morning with me. It's been fun to be back. We'll be back every other week again, and I hope that you guys all have a really wonderful day, and I will see you guys next time.